Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. And today is Monday. And it's let's see, what's the date? 16th? No, let's see. 14th of April. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning. And what we're going to cover today is Trump obviously postponing the Iranian war by going into negotiations with Iran, which are dragging out. They met on Saturday. They're going to meet again next Saturday in another country, not Oman. It's going to be the same thing. Americans in one room, Iran in another room, with a guy walking back and forth delivering the messages. So what's up with that? And what's up with Iran, Russia, and China meeting in China on April 8th? This was very, very quiet. It did hit some of the Arab news and stuff, but it really happened. And we're going to talk about that because I believe as a result of that, Trump was read the Riot Act by Iran, China, and Russia, which would include North Korea, who follows China's lead, and it would include Belarus, who follows Russia, and it would include, Venezuela, Cuba, and some others, okay, that follow these countries. And we're going to get into that. And now America is negotiating with Hamas directly, not through Netanyahu. And this is rather odd. And I'm going to give you the breakdown there, and I'm going to show you where all these roads lead to, what Trump is trying to do, and why it's not going to work, and then what Trump is going to do. And this leads to wars with all capital letters, bigger, I would say, than what was, a few weeks, 10 or 15 days ago, which was America versus Iran with Israel. It's rather huge. Okay, this is a massive thing. And you're not picking this up from the other social media people because they don't understand Bible prophecy correctly. They're all touting Ezekiel 38 and 39, which is down the road about 70 years. And a lot of my followers understand this is based on Daniel 9:24, which is a translation error in every English Bible except one, Smith's Literal Bible, which was self-published. No publishing house that's supporting the church is ever going to explain to you that this is an error. And it's in every single Hebrew manuscript of the Old Testament going back to 900 AD, which is the oldest one we have. And it's consistent in all of them. It says 70 70s. Shavim, Shavim. There's two 70s. And the first one was the Babylonian captivity, or maybe it was the time that Yeshua came to earth in Israel, which is about 2,000 years ago. And he likely, from the time he was born until 70 AD, destruction of Jerusalem, was likely 70 years. So I lean to this a little more heavily, but to establish the 70-year time period, we also can lean quite a bit on the Babylonian captivity. Although the next 70 years is not a captivity, they're all going to be in Israel. But then we go to the time of Yeshua's birth and ministry. Now, they say that Yeshua died around 30 AD. They have different versions. See, the problem with this is the calendar, the timing. It's all messed up. Okay. They tell you that Yeshua was born, most of them are saying between 4 and 6 BC. BC means before Christ. How the heck could Yeshua be born before Christ? They also don't calculate the year zero. In other words, the transition period from BC to AD meaning after death of Yeshua. So the period from 0 to 1 AD, so to speak, it's ridiculous to have that before he died, but they do it. So the 0 year was likely when he died, and the 70 year was likely when Jerusalem was destroyed. Back then, they had no Gregorian calendar at all, which came from Pope Gregory. They had no popes or anything like that. Okay? So they had a 70-year period where God was going to deal with them, right? Okay. So the 70-year period began when Yeshua was born. And remember, things happened then. Herod was killing the male children. And he had to split to Egypt until Herod kicked the bucket. Then he came back. So don't think nothing happened until he started his ministry. Plenty happened. Remember the Magi, as the English versions call them, and they were following the signs, and they came to look for the baby Yeshua and bring gifts, frankincense, gold, etc., right? So a lot of stuff happened when he was born. So don't discount that. And there's another 70, and it starts revolving around Yeshua when he appears in the clouds, not returns to earth. Matthew 24:30, Revelation 1:7, and so forth. That begins the next 70 year for Israel to be tried. And then comes the great falling away towards the end of this 70 years. Likely a seven-year period, because that's what happened basically with the 70 AD. Yes, I know I have tape on my face. It's physical therapy tape, and I'm keeping the magnet on for the tooth thing. And I want to tell you the tooth thing and the nerve and all that is 0 symptoms right now. Nothing. But I'm keeping it on because I want to make sure, and I want to keep it going. And I don't know. There was something the Lord showed me. It would be complicated to explain it. I was causing the irritation of the nerve via kinetic. Anyway, he showed me that, and I stopped doing what I was doing, and it's really nice now. I did find, I asked you to help me find that tooth filling thing, to replace a lost filling or something like that, because I have a crown where a piece in the center broke off. And what I had purchased, I didn't know, because when I purchased these things the last time, probably many, many years ago, I had one when I traveled. I was probably bought this years and years ago. I don't know where that old one is, if I even have it, but and it's probably no good anymore. But this one was to build yourself a false tooth if you had a tooth missing or a crown completely fell out, which is not the case with me. So I think this crown is a bridge where it has, a crown attached to a tooth or something like that. I can't remember. It was so many years ago I had this done. But I had to reorder a new thing that is for like a filling falls out or you got a piece of a crown missing. So it'll be a few days. I'm getting it from Europe. It won't be long. And then I'll fill it, and that'll probably make a difference. And I might have to fill it, every month or week or something, but I'll just run for the redemption with that. So anyway, that's the deal with what's really going on with Israel. And what's really going on with Israel is Zechariah 12, the siege. And a siege is not a blockade, it's surrounding and then attacking. And we're getting that from Lebanon, from Gaza, from Yemen, and we have been getting it from Iraq, and it'll probably resume, and from Iran. And Turkey is moving into position inside Syria. They're already in position. And Jordan has yet to fall into place along with Saudi Arabia, and that'll happen. Okay. And before the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man, if you go to Joel 2, you'll realize that there's a sign where the sun goes dark and the moon turns to blood. Now, a moon turning to blood is not an amber harvest moon. That's insane to think that. There never has been a moon turning to blood. It's a one-off event. This is something where the false teachers are taking advantage of you, like in Revelation, I think it's 12, perhaps, where they see a sign with the woman with the crown and 12 stars and the moon under her feet. That was a one-off event shown to Apostle John. It never says, when you see this again, this will happen. It's never going to happen again. There's never been a blood moon where the moon turns to blood, which is crimson or fire engine red, is it not? Never. Okay. And there's been 80 something of these phony blood moons, that, as they call it. And they write books about it, and people buy the books. It's nonsense. It's designed to destroy your faith. Okay? There's never been one. So the sun going dark and the moon turning to blood in Joel 2 and other places in the Bible is going to precede the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man, probably rather in extreme close proximity. And then when Yeshua returns to earth, which you'll see later on in Joel 2 again, Joel chapter 2, the moon turns dark and the sun goes dark and the stars don't give their light and fall from heaven. That's the return of Yeshua to earth. And this is not taught by them, okay? So this is a lot of what I'm going to tell you today is Bible-based with prophecy that the churches don't discuss. But nonetheless, they're smack dab right in your Bible, okay? So we're going to discuss what Trump is up to, and it involves heavily Yemen and Iran, and we're going to talk about this April 8th meeting with China and Iran and Russia in China, and BRICS, and what Trump's up against, and what Trump is most likely to do. And we're going to discuss a lot of the technical military things about the bombings on Yemen, potential bombings on Iran, the Moab 30,000-pound bomb, the B-2s, the B-52s, the F-35, everything. The warships, the new aircraft carriers coming, it's all going to be out there today. Okay? So that's what we're going to cover. All right? We're not going to deal very much with Ukraine and Russia, and we're not going to deal very much with North Korea and China, with South Korea and Japan and Taiwan. We'll touch on it maybe, but that's about it. So it's going to be something you're not going to hear elsewhere because they don't understand Bible prophecy. They don't put it together right. Okay. So that being said, and you know what we're going to cover today, and I'm not interested in sitting there and, putting out headlines, oh, you never believe what just happened and all that clickbait garbage, I don't do that. All right. I'm going to go into the live stream now, and put my posts up and, of course, make sure we have a live stream. And this gives people a chance to come in, and I'm going to be a little quiet while I put my posts up, which is a rather quick thing to do. People are coming in. And this gives people a chance to come in, and I'm going to be a little. We got plenty of sound. Let's see, there's some. I do answer posts in the chat unless they're stupid, and cursing and punishing. Then I just delete them and block them. Well, it's a Bible prophecy site above and beyond everything else. So we do deep dives into Bible prophecy. Okay, I'm getting my posts up right now, so I'll be a little bit on the quiet side so I don't make typos. We have a praise report, which is rather miraculous. I'll cover very discreetly to not reveal who it was. It was a miracle, basically. And this person would not make anything like that up. Now I'm just going to throw my email address up there in case anybody wants to put in a prayer request. You can do it in the chat. I do check the chat quite a bit during the live stream. And you can disguise the person you want the prayer for by giving me 2 initials for them. The Lord will know who it is. And we get a lot of answered prayers here. And we do accept prayers for pets and animals wholeheartedly. And we've had a lot of success with that. There's no problem with praying for animals and pets as well as people. I do suggest that if you're going to do prayers for somebody's healing, that you, especially if they're not a believer, that you ask them if they would like you to present the prayer to this group on the internet that will pray for them, and try to get a positive response. Sometimes they'll say no. Then I don't know what to tell you to do, but when they say yes, then we'll pray for them. And then when the healing comes, they're not going to think it was the latest medical procedure or medicine or something like that. Remember, Yeshua healed all who came to him. Okay? Believer or non-believer. So, but why would you come to him if you didn't have faith? You know what I'm saying? So why would they tell you to go ahead and, put a prayer request out for them if they didn't have some level of faith, right? So you're going to get much better results that way. Okay, so my email address. It's also in the bottom of the description box. It's israelgiving with the number 7 at gmail.com. Israelgiving, one word, with the number 7 at the end at gmail.com. All right, I'm going to just get my email up and we'll move ahead. Okay, I got everything up. And being a Bible-believing site, I'm going to do some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. Today, understanding what's going on in the Middle East and with China and Russia and North Korea and Trump and all this, it has a lot of moving pieces, okay? And I'm going to put together to you what Trump is doing in the Middle East and why it's this way, based on his actions, not on, with Bible prophecy, of course, not just running with, what he says. The leaders of every country, the world is in wickedness right now. It's not yet the end of the age, and the countries are all run by Satan bots, Satanists, if you will, okay? And they all lie. He's the father of lies, Satan, and they lie like their father, and they lie and they lie and they lie. So I'm not saying we should never listen to him. I listen to him. It's okay to listen to him, but remember they're liars. So you listen to them and you look at their actions, and then I look at Bible prophecy, and then I come up with what's cooking. And we know in Jeremiah 49, Elam is going to be destroyed. Elam, there is no Iran in the Bible, Iran. You're not finding it in the Bible because it's not there. Persia is there in Ezekiel 38 or 39. But Persia is not Iran. Persia is representative of the Persian Empire. So we know Elam, E-L-A-M, is going to be destroyed. And a lot of historians say that is pieces of Iran with pieces of Iraq and pieces of Syria. So there you have that. And then it's going to be destroyed so bad that the people have to leave Iran and they scatter into every country in the world. Now, this is what Iran, and the sword follows them, and they get cut off in these other countries. That's what Iran wants for Israel. Destroy the place we leave, and then we get picked off in the other countries, which has happened throughout time of the 2,000-year punishment. See, the other thing they never teach you is Hosea 6, 1 and 2. And I'll read it to you. And it's in there, and you'll see it right away. You'll understand it. So we go to Hosea 6, verses 1 and 2. These are very, very important verses that are ignored by the church. And you draw your own conclusions why they ignore them. Okay, verse 1. Come and let us return unto Jehovah. Now, one of the reasons in my mind they don't talk about this is they can't say replacement theology stuff and say, oh, this is the church, because it's saying the church is not with Jehovah. So they're not going to tell you that. That's probably why they ignore it. Come and let us return unto Jehovah, for he hath torn and he will heal us. He had smitten and he will bind us up. After 2 days will he revive us. That's kaya, means bring to life. It's referencing everlasting life, which is not immortality. You need to read John 6:40 about that, and then read Zechariah 12:10. But I can't go into a total Bible prophecy study here because we'll never get done. So after 2 days, Peter said 1,000 years is like a day unto the Lord. So it's referencing not that Israel's going to be punished for 48 hours or 2 days, okay? Now the words for 2 days are this. Min, which would mean from. Yom. It says after. Let me go into the Hebrew and actually figure out what it is saying. I've done this several times, but I don't remember exactly what the Hebrew does say. It's the chaya, to live. Memim. Okay. That is the word for, well, did I pronounce that right? Miyomim. It's days, plural. It's kind of confusing text because it says, okay, it's from. This is you see, reading the ancient Hebrew, the old Hebrew, is like you trying to pick up an original Tyndale's or Wycliffe Bible from 1500 or 1300, 1300s with Wycliffe. You'll stumble on the words. So from days. Then it goes into the third day, which is the millennium. So that's where we get the concept of the 2 days. And it's probably correct. Let me just check one other place here. They use better translation uses the word for chayat, to quicken, and that's probably reasonably accurate. All right. And on the third day, raise us up. That's not a rapture. It means like stand us up. So that's when we have New Jerusalem and Yeshua's, and that we may live before him. Well, Yeshua is enthroned in New Jerusalem along with the glory of God of Israel, which the church doesn't teach you who that is. It's the angel Michael that was with Moses and Aaron in the wilderness, called the glory of the God of Israel. And this in Exodus 23, I should read you this because a lot of people just don't even know about this. Exodus 23, verse 20. I'll read it in King James to you. Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. It's actually verse 21. Beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions. For my name, and that word for name is Shem, and it means name. That's what it means. My name, Karev, or Karev, I think, and they mix up the vet and the bet and the English. it doesn't go into English great, the Hebrew language, so it really would mean center. The center of the human body is the puppet, the belly button. The center of the middle of Israel is Jerusalem. Interesting, huh? He will not pardon your transgressions, for my name, or Shem, name, is in him, is in his center part. Okay. But thou shalt indeed obey his voice and do all that I speak. Then I will be an enemy unto thine enemies and an adversary unto thine adversaries. That's an important verse for how Jehovah operates. Now, let's go into the New Testament and see what we could learn about the glory of God of Israel there in Acts 7:55. Now, you need to remember that the church world doesn't understand who the glory of God is. And when you read Exodus 23, they're going to tell you it's Yeshua. It's not. Okay. Moses was up in Mount Sinai with the glory of God of Israel, not Yeshua. They tell you it's Yeshua, but it doesn't mean it's Yeshua. Let's read Acts 7:55. This talks about the stoning of Stephen, who was not an apostle, but a good man of God. But he, being full of the Holy Ghost, let's count. Stephen full of the Holy Ghost, that's one, right? Looked up steadfastly into heaven. So there was a miraculous thing that went on here. And saw the glory of God, that's two. And the word and is in the text, and Yeshua, that's three, standing on the right hand of God, that's four. Four. So we could take the Trinity and the triune Godhead and all that stuff and just flip it out the window. Forget about it. There's four. I reiterate. Stephen, full of the Holy Spirit, that's one, right? Looked up steadfastly into heaven and saw the glory of God, that's two. And Yeshua, that's three, standing on the right hand of God, that's four. That's your Bible. That's what you've been hauling around with you all these years. That's your Bible. If you think you're rejecting me, you're not. You're rejecting your own Bible. I'm just reading you the scriptures. Do you want to reject your own Bible? Do you think that's going to help you? Do you want to reject your own Bible in favor of what some guy or woman with a big building teaches or doesn't teach? Do you want to do that? So what is this chaya, this everlasting life? I should cover that with you. The Lord wants me to. 1 John 3:2. Beloved, now are we the sons of God, and it doth not yet appear what we shall be. You're a new creature in what they call Christ Jesus, Yeshua HaMashiach in the Hebrew. But it doesn't appear that way now, right? We all know that. And it does not yet appear what we shall be in the future. But we know that when he shall appear, not return to earth, appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. We will be like him. We will be like the risen Christ, the glorified Christ up in heaven with his Father Jehovah. That's what your Bible tells you when he appears. Does Scripture ever talk about his appearing? Well, I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to give you a very important one, which is in Matthew 24, verse 30. and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man. He's going to appear as a miraculous sign in heaven. You know, where the birds and the airplanes fly up there with the clouds, right? In heaven. And then shall all the tribes of, not the earth, of the land, or it could be of the earth, mourn. And they shall, remember the mourn part. They did not mourn for Yeshua when they had the Romans kill him back then, almost 2,000 years ago, did they? No. Maybe Miriam mourned, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 believers mourned or something, but, you know. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven. Now, the word for coming, according to Strong's, I'm not going to try to pronounce the Greek. Can also mean appear. So check Strong's, because it's in there. And that's the appear word. The word earlier up in the verse where it says shall appear is a different word, and it means to cause, appear, to shine. Okay. So let's pick it up again. Shall see the Son of Man coming. That's appear. They're doing this translation error to play into the Darby and Schofield Bibles, which are not Bibles, they're study Bibles, where they put their notes next to God's words. So you get the idea you need man to interpret the scriptures for you. You need no man to teach you. The Holy Spirit will show you all things. Isn't that true? Listen, I invite every one of you to toss the demons out of me. Feel free, throw the demons out of me. You have my full, explicit permission to do so in the name of the Lord Yeshua HaMashiach, or in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Throw the demons out of me. I don't have any. Now, find me one other person on the internet that says that, or one other character that gets in front of his big building on Sunday at 11 o'clock in the morning and tells you that. Find one. You can't. I can't. None of my followers on the YouTube can. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect. So you're going to have a trumpet from heaven go off, or it probably means a shofar, but when he's going to appear, along with the moon turning to blood and the sun going dark, and then he's going to appear. So now you know, do with it as you may. Some will reject it, thinking they're rejecting me, but they're rejecting the word. I'm just reading the word. I'm not giving you dreams or visions. I'm reading you the word, and you're rejecting the word. And Yeshua says, if you reject knowledge, I will reject you. It's up to you what you want to do. You have two paths. You could spend billions and trillions of years in paradise with Yeshua and his father Jehovah, with pleasures and happiness and peace you cannot even imagine. Or you could spend trillions of years in the lake of fire with misery and aggravation that you cannot even imagine either. It's up to you, not me. It's up to you. coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory, and he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Now, this means he's bringing them from all over. When do you see this? You see this in Matthew 13 with the tares and the wheat. And he says, let them grow together. The tares are the darnel. It looks like wheat. They grow together. The darnel has some bitter stuff inside it that's not food. It's not good wheat grain. Okay? If you eat it, you get into spasms. It's poisonous. Okay? Now, when it comes to the harvest, when the fruit is ready, the wheat bends over from the weight of the good food. Beautiful, isn't it? The darnel, which has got no good fruit, stands up tall, like the guys with the big YouTube churchianity channels, the guys with the big churches, how proud they are. They got Rolls Royces and jewelry and big houses and jet planes and yachts. And, a lot of these characters on the internet that are holding themselves out as Christians, most of them, if you see 250,000 or more followers, they're selling merchandise, which you're not allowed to do. You can't make merchandise out of God's people. Freely you have given, freely you shall give. Freely you have been given, freely you shall give. So you can't say, Lord gave me an anointing about what's going to happen next month and, blah, blah, blah land, and I'll tell it to you. Just need to buy my book for $24.95 plus shipping and handling. That's making merchandise out of God's people. That's when Yeshua hit the money changers with a rope and drove them out of Herod's temple, okay? Said, my Father's house shall be a house of prayer. So that was a good temple. According to Yeshua, he called it his Father's house. And that was the third temple. The first was Solomon's temple. Then there was Zerubbabel's temple, plain as day in the Bible. And then there was Herod's temple. The next temple is number 4. They all teach number 3. Why? I have not a clue. I don't know why. So you see the angels come because the Yeshua said in that parable, they said, should we root up the tares? He says, no. Will you root them up? You may root up the wheat also. Let them grow until the harvest. Now, the harvest is when you separate the garbage, the chaff, the junk, the darnel. The tares is the chaff, the junk. You burn it, you wrap it in, put it in, you separate it on the threshing floor and you burn it. And he says the angels will come and root up the tares, the darnel, bind them in bundles to burn them. The binding in the bundles is when they go to the pit. The burning is from the pit after everything is over. And we're up in heaven, there's a judgment for the wicked. Revelation 20 is a judgment for the righteous in New Jerusalem. But they get judged later on. And then they wind up in the lake of fire, and that's the burning. So there's a whole lot of stuff that's going to happen. When Yeshua appears, it's the end of the age. And it says, in the age to come with everlasting life. Now, we covered the everlasting life a little bit, but let's go back to the appearing in Revelation 1:7. Please note I'm working with the Old and the New Testament. Revelation 1:7. Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him. So everybody's going to see him. Remember, the Lord said in the word it says the angels standing on the four corners of the earth, right? So if the earth is a round sphere, how do you have angels standing on the four corners? There's no corners. The Bible also says the earth is immovable. So how is it spinning at 1,000 miles an hour? Okay. So, and he cometh with, the only way they're all going to see him is if the earth is flat, not a round spinning ball, right? They wouldn't all see him at the same time if it was, would they? Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him. They stuck a spear in his side when they were crucifying him, and water and blood came out, which a lot of people say is the beginning of the church. Water, the Holy Spirit, living water will flow from your belly, and the blood is, from communion, the wine, or the grape juice. Grape juice and wine is grape juice. Wine is fermented. Now, my wife tells me that the 2,000-year-old wine was nowhere near as, impacting as the wine we have today. So you wouldn't really get, it was probably more like, low alcohol beer or something like that. I don't know how real it is. She researched it, and she probably has that right. But I haven't, but I'll take her word for it. It's probably true. Because he tells Timothy, drink a little wine for your stomach, And he wouldn't tell Timothy, drink the wine so you could get a good buzz on, So anyway, moving along. And they also, but maybe it was alcoholic because he told them to drink a little, not to sit there and guzzle it. Drinking wine and beer is fine. The more hard liquor, we're told that's not for the believers, that's for those that are going to perish, the unbelievers, that have to quiet all the fears and problems and anxiety and delusions and everything they have. So they love it. When you look at, let's say, go to YouTube and watch videos of rich people's mansions, they might have 15,000 square feet or more, and they'll have 5 or 6 bars distributed around the house. Not one, many. And they have their own wine cellar where they'll have 100, 200, 300 bottles of wine. And you go look at videos about their yachts, and they got on a yacht, on a super yacht, they got, 3 or 4 bars on the yacht, sometimes more. And they even put wine cellars in the yacht. They love their alcohol. But for us, it should really be beer or wine, okay? All right? And you don't get drunk. There's nothing wrong with drinking the alcoholic beverages. Could you drink tequila or bourbon or scotch? I suppose you could, but it's not for us, and we're not supposed to get drunk no matter what we drink, okay? You can sit there and have 4 big glasses of wine, and you'll be bombed. Unless you're a devout alcoholic, then you might have to drink 8 or 10 or something. And you could keep drinking beers and get bombed too. I don't use alcohol, but you could if you wanted to. And I think it's probably proper to take communion with wine, but if you feel better with grape juice, go ahead. So it talks about them wailing, which is mourning, okay? So everybody's going to see him. But let's look at John 6:40. And this has all been covered up by the churches. You never hear them talk about this. Yet here it is, right in your Bible. John 6:40. I'm in Old and New Testament now. And this is the will of him that sent me, that everyone which seeth the Son of Man, remember it says you'll see him as he is, the resurrected Messiah, and believeth on him, may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. The raising up at the last day is the rapture, and it happens on the last day when there are no more days. Read the previous verse here, John 6:39. And this is the Father's will which had sent me, that of all which he hath given me, I should lose nothing, but should raise it up again at the last day. The last day means there's no more days. Millennium's over, Revelation 20. Then Satan's released, gathers them like the sand of the sea around Jerusalem and New Jerusalem. Father God Jehovah comes down from heaven, burns the whole universe up. It's over. We meet him in the clouds because there's no place to stand, and we go up to heaven. And the dead get resurrected, and they join us, and we all go up to heaven for eternity, forever and ever. It's an infinite amount of time. It has no measurement. It's more than 1,000,000 years, more than 1,000,000,000, more than 1,000,000,000,000, more than 250,000,000,000. It has no limit. Infinite, you might use that word, which I don't. Okay, there's a word like that in Hebrew called olam, from now and forever into the future, but it's an indeterminate time. It's not the same as immortality or you shall not die. In New Jerusalem, it says there's no death there. So when you get into New Jerusalem and you eat of the tree of life and drink of the water of life, you won't die anymore. That doesn't necessarily mean you have a spiritual body, but it means you're not going to die anymore. I don't think we understand a whole lot about that yet, but more will be revealed as we get closer to that. We have to be concerned with what's coming up on us right away. Okay, so when does this happen? Well, it tells us in the scriptures, but the church doesn't tell you. You go to Zechariah 12. Don't worry, I'll get into the whole thing with Trump. This is where the Lord is leading me now, so we'll get into it. Zechariah 12 is basically, we'll go to verse 2. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto the people round about. So the trembling means they're so probably drinking the cup of the wrath of the Lord, which is a supernatural type of thing. It's not that some angel comes and pours them a glass of the cup of wrath, and they're shaking. They're so scared, but they're doing it anyway. Roundabout. So they're surrounding. The word for roundabout, let's break it down in the Hebrew. It's Strong's number 5439. And let's see how Strong's deals with this word. He's the better of the translators. Not that he's perfect. It means a circle. It means neighbor or environs. It can mean around. Circuit, comfort, compass on every side. So we're not complete yet. Turkey hasn't attacked us yet, but they're in central Syria. Jordan hasn't attacked us yet, nor has Saudi Arabia, and Iraq will attack us and has attacked us in the past. And then you have Iran, and then you have Turkey, and you have Lebanon. It's probably about 90%, 80, I don't know, 75, 80% complete right now, something like that. Maybe 75, 70%. It's quite ongoing right now. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege, both against Judah and against Jerusalem. Now, this is not Gog and Magog. When you're in Gog and Magog, it's Israel. The 10 tribes are back. We got the land back. We don't have the land back when he's calling us Judah and Jerusalem, because that's who's here now, Judah, which is the tribe of Judah, Yeshua's tribe, and the Levites, which you could think of right now as being Judah's Levites. There's maybe a tiny bit of Benjamin here, a tiny, tiny bit. Okay. And in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people, all that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces. Well, in old day talk, cut in pieces means you're dead, right? It's not like you're going to get cut in pieces and the ambulance is going to come with crazy glue and glue you back together. That ain't going to work, right? It's a way of saying you're dead from a violent way, right? Though all the people of the earth, well, the people word is incorrectly translated here. It's 1471 Goyim, heathen. The heathen of the earth or the land of Israel, speaking of greater Israel, when it goes from God promised by covenant, it says in Genesis 15, from the Euphrates to the Nile. And that would include, starting in Africa, Egypt, from the Nile going east, Sudan and South Sudan, same Nile going east. It would include parts of Uganda and Kenya, and Djibouti and Somalia, and Ethiopia and Eritrea, then going across the Red Sea into the Middle East. It would include going from the north, all of Lebanon, Turkey. And remember, the Hittites is Turkey, and that's in Psalm 83, the Hittites. Remember that, because they're touting Psalm 83 for you, which is basically a prayer, not a prophecy, but I'm just using it as a tool. Turkey from the west of the Euphrates River, Syria and Iraq from the west of the Euphrates River, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Gaza, Yemen, Oman, UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, and Kuwait. It would not include Iran. Now, Yemen will be a wasteland, and Moab is central and southern Jordan. It'll be busted up very bad. So a lot of these places we're not going to live in because it's destroyed. Yemen is Edom, E-D-O-M. There's no Yemen word in the Bible, okay? So it's Edom. All right. Now we go to Zechariah 12, verse 4. In that day, now this is talking of the day of vengeance, I'll cover that in a minute. Saith Jehovah, I will smite every horse with astonishment, and his rider with madness, and I will open my eyes upon the house of Judah, and will smite every horse of the people with blindness. When he opens his eyes, that's when you basically, let's say, slid into home plate. And the governors of Judah, that word should be the judges. See, God says he's going to run Israel with the judges. Where? Well, it's in Isaiah 1. I know they don't teach it, but I teach it. And it's in verse, we'll read it, let's go to Isaiah 1, verse 24. Therefore saith Adonai Jehovah of hosts. Hosts could be armies of angels, for instance. The mighty one of Israel. I will ease me of mine adversaries and avenge me of my enemies. And I will turn my hand upon thee. That's a good thing. And purely purge away thy dross, remember that, and take away all thy tin. And I will restore thy judges as at the first. Moses and Aaron were the judges. Were they also prophets? Yes. What two prophets do we have coming? The two witnesses, Elijah, and Apostle John. And thy counselors as at the beginning. Well, remember Moses and Aaron had 70 counselors. Well, they'll have that too. Afterward, thou shalt be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. Zion, which is the land we have now, it means dry, parched place, which is basically Israel today. We go usually 7 months without any rain. Shall be redeemed with judgment, and her converts with righteousness. And it goes on. Okay, so it's describing these events today. So that's who's going to be running Israel, not a democracy. Okay, not the churches. So we're back in Malachi 3. No, we're in Zechariah 12, sorry. We're in Zechariah 12, I think verse 5. And the judges of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be my strength in Jehovah of hosts and their God. In that day, that's the day of vengeance, I'll give you that too in a minute, will I make the judges of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheaf, and they shall devour, better translated, burn up all the people round about on the right hand and on the left, and Jerusalem, it's not translated clearly, Jerusalem shall remain inhabited still in her own place, even in Jerusalem. So nothing happens to it. It's not Gog and Magog. Okay, so what happens? Who do you know that has fire coming out of their mouth that Revelation 11 calls prophets? Well, the two witnesses. They're the judges of Judah because they're prophets. Now, as a gift of the Spirit, people prophesy, but that doesn't mean they hold the office of a prophet. Okay. The glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. In that day shall Jehovah defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them. The old feeble people that totter around, don't have their balance, use walkers and canes and wheelchairs or whatever, defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David. David was a great warrior. Feeble people can't function as a warrior and kill Goliath like David, and kill a lion and kill a bear and be a great fighter. So something changed about them. They were feeble. We know who the angel in the wilderness is. It's the glory of God of Israel, Michael, the great angel that threw Satan out of heaven. So, of course, Satan doesn't want people knowing about Michael, does he? He's the one that flipped the old dragon jerk out of heaven. So the house of Judah fights like Michael, the glory of God of Israel, who killed 140,000 in one day. You see what they're not teaching you? And it shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations, all the heathen nations, Goyim, that come against Jerusalem. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplication. So now they're believers. He poured his spirit out on them. Right? You can be a non-believer while God pours the spirit out on you. Impossible. And then what happens? And they shall look upon me whom they have pierced, and they shall mourn for him. Remember that? As one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him, as one that is in bitterness for his firstborn. In that day shall there be a great mourning in Jerusalem, as the mourning of Had Ramon in the valley of Megiddo, and the land shall mourn. Every family apart are going to mourn for him. That never happened yet. Don't let them fool you. And this could happen tomorrow or next week. The siege is in pretty serious, almost complete. They attack us while they're surrounding us. Like Yemen, like Iran, like Iraq, they've all attacked us, and Yemen still does. The Hezbollah keeps trying. Hamas keeps trying. You got it? That's what's going on, not Gog and Magog. Day of vengeance, year of recompenses. We'll cover that, and then we'll go through what Trump's up to. With this background in the prophecies, I think you'll understand a lot. Isaiah 34:8. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion, for the fighting over Zion. The nations don't want Israel to get the land from the Euphrates to the Nile. They want them out of here. They want them to give pieces back to the people that worship false gods, and they should live here. That's what the controversy of Zion is. And you're in the year of recompenses now. It's not a 12-month year. It's not Shana. That's a 12-month year. It's Shana, which is like, you shall select the lamb of the first year. Shana is the word. And that the first year would mean the lamb is not 2 years old. So if the lamb was 23 months old, he would still be in the first year. 24 months? No, it'd be the second year. When is this going to be up? Now I have to tell you, this is not in the scriptures. This is what the Lord told me. He told me we're in recompenses on April 10th, 2023. So it has to be before April 10th. Well, the days in their calendar were screwed up, but it's going to be before that. Probably before April. Not April, I mean August, not April, August. He told me on August 10, 2023. You could believe that or not believe it. All right? So now you have the day of vengeance associated with the year of recompenses. Look what happened to Hamas. Look what happened to Hezbollah. Remember the pages blowing up and all that stuff? Look what happened in Syria to them. Look what's happening to Yemen. Okay? Look at Turkey's failing economy. They haven't been busted up yet, but they will. Same for Jordan, and same for Saudi Arabia and for Iran. Now we go to Isaiah 63, and we see the day of vengeance is, I think it's verse 4, is associated with the year of redemption. The redemption begins when Yeshua appears in the clouds and we see him and we have everlasting life. That's sort of kind of maybe like the way they were before the flood, where they lived over 900 years, but it's a double portion of reward, so it's better. The mercy really more than reward. And it says a child shall die at 100. There you go. Okay. It says my people's days shall be like that of a tree, which can be more than 1,000 years old, but it dies. You don't have the possibility of not dying anymore, but you'll be young again. In Malachi 3, it says you shall jump out of the stall like the baby calf. So you'll be young again, energetic. Other scriptures say even children get tired when they run, but you won't get tired. You'll be probably like somebody around 21, maybe 17, maybe 25, something like that. So it says, for the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. So the day of vengeance appears to be the turning point. I don't think the day of vengeance is in the year of redemption. I think that's the closing out of the year of recompenses. And the closing out of that is the day of vengeance. And then what you also need to understand that they don't teach you is Jeremiah 30, verse 11. And a lot of you will, no, I hope not here, but a lot of people reject this because it's too much for them. For I am with thee, saith Jehovah, to save thee, to salvation thee. So he's talking about the appearing of the Son and the Son of Man when you get the Chaya, that everlasting life. To save thee, though I make a full end of all nations whither I have scattered thee, yet I will not make a full end of thee, but I will correct thee in measure and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. Believe me, we're not left altogether unpunished. I lived here for many years. Okay. So all the nations are going to be destroyed because they're built up as Satanists. Satanists run them. But it doesn't mean all the people will be destroyed. So that's where you're at in prophecy now. All right, let me look at the live stream and see if we got people putting bad language in and stuff. And I do want to answer questions if they're in there. There was a lot of red alerts a couple of hours ago. Hope all is well. Okay, I want to explain. Yemen said that they launched 2 missiles and a drone at us. We know nothing about a drone or a second missile. We know there was a missile launched, and it was taken down before it came into Israel. But when one missile comes, we sound red alerts in perhaps 60 or 70 cities where it may go to. Why? When we do the takedowns, they can be from our Navy ships, they can be by our planes, shooting rockets at them in the air. They could be from the Iron Dome or the David Sling or the Arrow 2 that takes them down. When you take them down, these things blow the missile up, and they blow themselves up too, and then shrapnel comes down. So they sound the red alerts so people go in the bomb shelters. It's mandatory to have a bomb shelter in every house in Israel. So then they go into the bomb shelters so they don't get hit with the shrapnel. So we think it's safer to blow the red alert in as many as 50, 60, even 75 cities to protect everybody. And we generally take these missiles down before they get into Israel. I hope that explains it to you. I don't know how anybody could eat Chihuahua meat. I would never want to eat a dog. I love dogs, but deep fried Chihuahua, I don't know if you're telling the truth, really. Somebody wrote Revelation 3:9. Well, that sounds like we should look up Revelation 3:9, right? Be respectful of people quoting the scripture. Let's see what it says. Revelation 3:9. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not. But behold, I will make them to come and worship you. Okay. Now, where was this told to them? It was told to them in the so-called churches outside of Israel. They were in basically what we would call like Europe today, not in Israel. And it's mentioned 2 times in the Bible, synagogue of Satan. And both references are not in Israel. Okay? So if you're going to, condemn the Jews, he calls himself the God of Israel. And the Jew word means Yehudah. Yehudi means somebody from Judah. Yehudi, which is what the Jew word means. Yeshua was Yehudi. And Yeshua calls the believers his brethren. So you should wake up to the fact that you're condemning the line of Yeshua. You ought to get real about this, okay? Because you're the one that's going to be worshiping at the feet. But you don't know that. You can't understand the scriptures, and you just don't like Israel. You hate Israel. So that's your problem. No way. I guess you believe not the scriptures or something, or I don't know. I can't help everybody. I know that. Okay, so now what's Trump up to? Well, we covered some of this yesterday. Iran's missile cities, of which there's supposed to be 12, are down about 1,640 feet. They're built into mountains with massive amounts, many, 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 many meters of rock above them. And they put these things, they find a cave in the mountain, and they build down from the cave. So the Moab bombs will not do that at all. They will not destroy these missile cities. No way. They go down 200 feet in earth. They could go down a few meters of rock. Maybe they could get 20 feet, 23 feet of rock. That's it. Now, could they drop 8 or 10 or 12 Moab bombs precisely on the same location and get these underground cities? Nobody knows. Does it sound like it would work? It does. Would it work? I don't know. It's not tested. So when Trump attacks their underground facilities, it's not going to go well. Evidence in Yemen. Yemen is perhaps 1/5 or 1/10 as fortified as Iran, very slightly compared to Iran. As of last night or this morning, Trump has not stopped the Houthis in Yemen from launching missiles. It's been about a month of everyday airstrikes with B-52s, B-2s, F-35s, I don't know, everything else, F-18s, F-15s, all kinds of stuff. Hasn't done it. They're still operational. Do you think another month of these bombings is going to make a big difference? Maybe. I don't know. I don't think so. Since Iran is 5 or 10 times stronger and better fortified and deeper with better underground facilities, by far, he ain't going to make it. And Trump's realizing that. That's why he's playing into these idiot negotiations with Iran are just for stalling for time. And Trump is not a moron. He knows Iran is stalling for time. So what is he up to? What is Trump doing? Well, I'm going to attempt to show you that. And I think I will show it. Okay? So now we need to look at Yemen and tie it to what Trump's doing. Yemen is attacking American warships repeatedly. I do not think in these days, since he started a month ago, that they damaged American warships. American warships are staying out of their reach, which is smart because they could strike from outside the striking distance of Yemen. And they're predominantly using aircraft against them with bombs and missiles and rockets and whatnot, right? And they haven't stopped them in a month, roughly. Trump needs to walk away from this Middle East thing a victor. Okay? What he's doing as of the last 48 hours or 72 hours is well, not himself, his team is negotiating with Hamas in Gaza. And the negotiations seem to be having legs because the Hamas went to Cairo, Egypt, to get into negotiations with the American negotiators there, probably Witkoff, in Egypt. That happened already. And what we're getting back is that the deal America seems to be digging into is Hamas will give Israel 8 living hostages plus some dead bodies of hostages. Okay? And in return, Israel's going to give them what they're asking for is 2,000 jailed terrorist prisoners, 2,000 for 8 living hostages. That's the absurdity of this thing, right? Now, this is where Trump's running with this, right? And this is for a temporary ceasefire of something between 40 and 70 days. During this period of time, Israel will not attack Hamas or Gaza. And humanitarian aid with medical, food, water, and fuel will come in to Gaza like it'll be like, 50, 100 truckloads a day, right? Something like that. And Hamas will continue to steal it if possible and store it for themselves while the people starve. But I think military would be used to make sure Hamas can't steal it. Okay? Now, Hamas also wants a full and complete withdrawal from Gaza by Israel. All the soldiers leave. Okay? Before we get all the hostages back, there's 24 living hostages. So they're talking about giving us a third. Then we pull out of Gaza completely, give it back to them, especially out of the Rafah crossing by Egypt, so they can continue smuggling weapons in from Egypt. And we know in Israel that if we do that, within 2 to 6 weeks, they'll be shooting missiles and rockets at us again. Okay? We all know that in Israel. Everybody knows that. They also want a peacekeeping force from some country or countries to make sure that Israel does not attack them. They didn't say a peacekeeping force to make sure that they don't attack Israel. Because when the missiles come, they'll just say, oh, it was some revolutionary group here stole missiles from us and launched them. It wasn't us. We're sorry. That's what will happen. We know that. They've done that type of thing many times. So we're not going for it. We're occupying about 30%, maybe a little less, of Gaza now as buffer zones, security zones. So we've taken back about 30% of it, a little less. And we've split them in two. And what they're doing is they're hiding the living hostages in the tunnels and underground facilities they have. So if we blow them to smithereens, the hostages will get killed. And that's a very bad political outcome for Netanyahu. There's 2 people in Israel that are politicians, one called Ben-Gvir, and he's the Israel security minister, and the other one is called Bezalel Smotrich, and he's the economy minister of Israel. Both these guys are very right-wing. Combined, they have about 15 votes out of 120 in the parliament called the Knesset. And they will blow Netanyahu's coalition if he signs some stupid thing like this where we withdraw out of Gaza. Now, if Netanyahu signs let's say a 50 or 60-day ceasefire and doesn't pull the forces, the military out of Gaza, they'll go along with it. They want the hostages back too, but we got to stay there to make sure that Hamas doesn't rearm And the only way we're going to permanently go out of there is if Hamas is demilitarized and leaves Gaza. In other words, we go in and make sure they don't have any more weapons, and then they leave Gaza forever and ever and go live in another country. We really don't care where they go. But even then, we're going to keep that roughly 30% as a buffer zone. So the chances of this coming to pass are anything but good. They're pretty dismal. Now, why is Trump pushing for this without going through Netanyahu? Because if there is a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, the Houthis in the past ceasefire respected it and stopped shooting at Israel and ships during the ceasefire. So this gives Trump political fuel in that, hey, I must have scared, okay? So it doesn't look good. Trump wants this to get the Houthis to calm down and stop attacking shipping, to open up shipping in the Red Sea. Okay? Which the Houthis would likely do. And then he could stop bombing Yemen. And he knows if he attacks Iran, they'll start attacking the shipping in American warships again, too. So that's where Trump's going there. Now, what about Iran? China, Russia, and Iran had a meeting in Beijing on April 8th. Today's the 14th, less than a week ago, almost a week. And they must have come, it was a very secret meeting, and there was very, very little of anything leaked out of it. I expect that they probably told Trump probably around the 9th or the 10th of the month. Today's the 14th. They probably told Trump that there's going to be a very heavy price to pay if you bomb Iran. Now, let's discuss some of the things that China and Russia can do that are rather conservative that they would likely do. One is quietly give advanced anti-ship missiles and long-range missiles to Iran. They just fly it in, baby. That's all they got to do. Then they put the plane in a hangar and cover up everything taken out, and nobody knows what happened. That would enable Iran to attack the American warships with great success or some success, and American warships would probably catch on fire and burn and sink and so forth. China, Russia, and Iran could do nothing about American aircraft. They cannot stop that. You have to file that away in your brain for a few minutes later now. We'll deal with that. They can't stop the American planes at all. So America has a big advantage here of using their aircraft. But America is most unlikely at this present time today to be able to destroy their missile cities. Maybe they can mess up their 5 nuclear plants, because I don't believe they're down that deep. They're down about 600 feet. The missile cities are like that Colorado place where they fly the president and the vice president to, and it's inside a mountain. that could sustain nuclear blasts and all that. That's what Iran has, but about 12 of them. And they have thousands of missiles in each one of these with missile launchers. They moved the missile city is probably where the missiles are jutting out from the mountain above it. In other words, the mountain is shaped like this. They open up a hatch, and it's an opening, and they got vertical or near vertical silos, and they launch missiles. And these missiles reload like bullets from a belt-fed machine gun. They just keep reeling the missiles in as they're fired and keep loading them. Can the Americans in Israel detect these locations based on the heat signature from all these missiles? Absolutely. Can they go bomb these facilities while they're operating and the roof is open from these missile cities? Yes. Can they successfully bomb and blow these missile cities up? Yes. But they might not get the whole thing to stop operating. These places have 12 entrances, exits, and they have like a railroad train, small thing, that they could put missile launches on or bring trucks in to offload them. And they could just keep firing the missiles until America destroys that missile city or Israel. But they got 12 of these missile cities. Each one can launch hundreds and thousands of missiles. What would their targets be? Short range. Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, just on the other side of the Persian Gulf. Maybe not much over between, they probably vary between 100 and 200 miles, or maybe more like 100 and 160 or 70 miles, or something like that. They could hit them with short range, intermediate missiles, I guess you would say. They need radar. They've got radar, but the radar could be destroyed by America with stealth jets, right? Absolutely, no doubt about it. Radar has to be stuck above ground in a high place, and it's assured it's a target. And the F-35 pilots would be sitting there licking their chops, waiting for Iran to turn the radar on, and they would launch missiles that lock onto the radar beam. So even if the radar is turned off briefly after it's turned on, it's going to get something like a GPS location and just home in on the location where the radar is. Boom. These are like cruise missiles, probably a 500-pound warhead. Goodbye, radar. Missiles no longer guided. This is an important point. Russia has mobile missile launches, which are on trucks, like a big tractor trailer truck cab, and it has sort of a lowboy, and it has one or two missile launchers on the lowboy. And these missile launchers, these missile trucks, if you will, are driving around all the time. And they hide them in a barn, an underground facility, not to fortify the thing, just keep it out of sight. Or they can cover them with camouflage nets and all kinds of things, and they're moving. So even if you spot the sucker at 2:00 in the afternoon, by the time you get a launch off at 5 minutes after 2 or something like that, it could be somewhere else. It may not be parked stationary out in the open. I doubt it would. And these things can fire anti-aircraft missiles, which are not going to be a severe threat to American and Israeli planes, but a threat to the non-stealth ones. And they can also launch off these launches, hitting nearby sites of oil refineries owned by other countries to shut them down, and also their ports and piers where they offload the oil onto oil tanker ships, causing quite a few weeks of repair needed to restore the flow of the oil. And it would crash the economy of Europe and North and South America and Africa and lots of places, because oil prices would double or triple or quadruple. It would be rather insane, or more. Some people say oil can go to $500 a barrel. I think you would be at about 200 to 300 a barrel, my guess, and it's just a guess. I'm thinking here. So Trump is trying to buy time, and Iran is trying to buy time. Iran wants to work with Russia and China and get new missiles, and they probably want fighter jets, although that's probably not going to help them. As my research has told me, that the American and Israeli jets are so superior, China, Russia, and Iran don't have much hope against the aircraft. Not the Navy ships, the aircraft. They don't have much hope of defending these other countries and their military bases in Iraq, Jordan, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, and all that. They're not going to be able to do it. Iran's going to swarm attack them mightily out of Iraq, out of Iran, with drones and missiles, and the Houthis in Yemen will also help. And they will get hits. They will get hits. There'll be a lot of takedowns and a lot of hits. And they shut the oil refineries down, and Yemen is already threatening Saudi Arabia heavily the last few days. And they have successfully hit the Aramco oil facility in the last year or so 2 times, but minor hits. It wasn't done with, 11 missiles and 20 drones at the same time, where multiple hits would shut it down and it would take 6 months to rebuild it. Just hitting the Aramco facility like that would probably take oil prices from $60 to $110, $120, at least $100. But if you started hitting Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and the other countries, then you'd go up to 200 or worse. So that means what you pay in the pump could easily go up 3-fold, which means people are going to have trouble going to work. In America, you're at $9 a gallon for gas, which is what we pay in Israel today. A lot of people aren't going to be able to go to work. Let's break it down. They got SUVs and big vehicles and big engines, so they go 2 gallons, let's be conservative. They go 2 gallons to work and 2 gallons to come home. So they're spending $36 a day on gas, $180 a week, say $800 a month. That's going to put people out of the game. So they might be able to carpool, maybe. Okay? Now, the people making $145,000 a year are just going to suck it up and buy the gas. But the people making $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year don't have it in their budget. They got to pay tax, state tax, sales taxes, property taxes, car insurance, house insurance, mortgages, rent, internet, food, which is going up. All these, they don't have this extra money in their budget. It ain't going to work. Trump could subsidize for a while with American oil reserves, but then he has to cut Europe off and other countries. So they're going to, when he does that, they're going to gravitate towards Russia and Iran and abandon Trump. And he knows that. They have to. So Trump's in a pickle here. Okay? Now, the only thing China and Russia have to do to thwart Trump is this. send 200 or 300 good long-range missiles and 200 or 300 good anti-ship missiles that are better than what Iran has now. So Iran could take out the American fleet and hit the military bases and hit the oil refineries of the other countries and cause tremendous chaos, which they want because it'll wreck the economies of Europe and America and other countries, and it'll drive a lot of countries into BRICS to get oil and natural gas from Iran and Russia, and the UAE is already in BRICS too. And this is going to be traded in, not in US dollars and not in euros, in the new BRICS currency. So this is a mess. And it will drive the value of the dollar down, and Trump's economy will start to crumble. Combine that with the sanctions, and you got a catastrophic something like 1929 on the way, where they were jumping out of their windows on Wall Street, which they really, some people did. So Trump reversed on a lot of the sanctions by stalling them, postponing them. That's called backpedaling. And now he's backpedaling on the war with Iran. And he can't negotiate with the Houthis because they belong in a mental hospital for the criminally insane. So does Iran. And so what he's doing is negotiating with Hamas because the Houthis are attacking his warships and merchant marine vessels and Israel over the Gaza war. So Trump's thinking, if I could shut down the Gaza war, then the Houthis will stop, which in the previous ceasefire worked. They did stop. Then if they stop, I'm more at ease dealing with Iran over a longer period of time. And I think Trump is saying, in the meantime, I've got my people at the Pentagon working like crazy to get better bunker buster bomb technology. They might go to a 50 or 100,000 pound bomb. I don't know. Are they going to go in boots on the ground? Zero chance, I think. Or next to zero. It's end times, you never know. But that would be one way to get the missile cities, because they could go over to the missile city with truckloads of explosives, and put 10 truckloads by the entrances to the missile cities with, 25, 40, 50,000 pounds of explosives and just start blowing up the entrances and the exits. And that means they can't get in and out. And it probably means their generators will be cut off. They probably have air vents above ground to get air in down there. That can be blown up. Yeah, with boots on the ground, you could do it. Do you need to do it with 150 or 400,000 soldiers? No, you could probably do it with a few hundred special forces with intense air cover, with F-16s, F-15s, F-35s, F-18s, Apache helicopters, all sorts of stuff protecting them. They could parachute in. You could clear the area of enemy troops with the A-10 Warthogs and other planes. And then you'd have to parachute down large trucks of explosives or something where they could do things like that. And then blow all the entrances. I imagine if you put 25 or 30,000 pound bomb in a truck and you drove it right up to the entrance and detonated it, it's probably not going to be a functioning entrance anymore, even though you got big blast doors. Or maybe you got to do it repeatedly 3 or 4 times. Okay. But they probably could come up with some technology, and each missile city, of which there's about 12, has 12 entrances. So you'd probably be looking at thousands of special forces. Well, you got Delta, you got Green Beret, you got Navy SEALs, Recon Marines, Army Rangers, and others. Yeah, they could do it. Would they have casualties? Maybe not that many, or maybe not at all. It depends how good they are at it. But probably some. They wouldn't be there but a few hours. They'd be in and out probably in 2 to 4 hours, 6 hours. It wouldn't be that hard. That's something that could happen. If he doesn't destroy the missile cities and he attacks Iran, the missile cities are going to take out the oil refineries and the military bases of America in Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, likely the UAE, maybe not, very likely Jordan, very likely Saudi Arabia, unless these countries sell out and tell them they're going to go into BRICS and be good little boys and bow the knee to China, Russia, and Iran, which is bad for Trump because then they're going to all start trading oil immediately, not for the US dollar or the euro. You got it? So Trump's plans for a MAGA great economy are going to fall apart if BRICS completes. The key element in BRICS is Iranian oil and Russian oil and natural gas, which they have huge amounts of. And the UAE is a little bit of an add-on, not a great big one by itself. Because then China will buy the oil, which they do now, not paying for it in US dollars or euros, and so will India, and so will many other countries. And they're crippling the American dollar. Badly, real badly, hurting Trump's economy in a very, very significant way. Markets would collapse. They'd have to stop trading, and the trading may never resume. It'd be that bad. The whole world runs on oil. Planes use it, trains use it, ships of all sorts, civilian and military, except for some nuclear powered ships, which are not very many in the world, believe me. They use it. Trucks use it, taxis use it, cars use it, motorcycles use it, home heating uses it. Powering a lot of power plants uses it. It's amazing what damage this would have. So now what the heck does Trump do? First thing he's looking to do is buy time, as evidenced by playing this moron game with Iran for negotiations. He knows Iran, the leaders, Khomeini and them, they belong in a mental hospital for the criminally insane. He knows that. But he's buying time too, and he's playing into them because he needs the time. What is he trying to do in this time period? Well, one thing that comes to mind is get better weapons so he could take out the missile cities. You can't hit the nuclear facilities first because then the missile cities unload. It's a disaster. You got to hit the missile cities first. You got to take out the Iranian warships first because they can attack the oil refineries and the American bases from as well. Then you go back and get the nuclear facilities, okay? And Trump knows that. Can Trump take out every Iranian warship? Hands down with the aircraft. Hands down, no problem. Okay? Can he take out the oil refineries and the ports and piers in Iran? Yes, he just has to knock the radar out first, which is very, very doable, extremely doable. No problem. But the missile cities are a checkmate, a stalemate, a Mexican standoff where one person has the gun pointed at the other guy's head. They have guns pointing at each other. That's basically what the situation is. Trump probably thinks he can get a better weapon in the very near future, like days or weeks, that will solve the problem with the missile cities of Iran, which they're rumored, and I believe it, to have thousands of missiles in each missile city. I would say at the low end, extreme low end, Iran has a mix of all different kinds of missiles of at least 250,000, probably 500,000 or more. They've been stockpiling them for many years. They're an insane amount of them, okay? And they're completely nuts, okay? So is this deal with Hamas going to work? If it does, Trump bought himself some time. Would Netanyahu go for it? Well, he's under a lot of political pressure to get hostages back. He may be able to sell it to Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, the right-wing guys, as we got to get these hostages back, guys. And they may go for that. But they're not going to go for a withdrawal from Gaza and let it all start up again. If he agrees to that, they're going to blow the coalition. Trump will not have his way, even though Netanyahu goes into his camp on this, because the right wing will blow the coalition, and Netanyahu may very well not win this vote of no confidence. And then he's out. Then his 3 criminal cases, the Attorney General and the Supreme Court that he's trying to strip of their power, will railroad Netanyahu back into the court. He will likely get convicted and go to jail, and that's the end of Netanyahu. Who comes into office next? I don't have a clue. I know the 2 witnesses very shortly are going to be running Israel, and I know when we see them appearing in Malachi 3, or at least Elijah appears here, we don't see the democracy of Israel. And in the attack in Zechariah 12, the IDF and the Air Force and the Navy and the democracy government, they're not there. There's 2 judges running Israel, Elijah and Apostle John. And this appears strongly to be before redemption comes, before the appearing of the sign of the Son of Man. So that's due to happen any day. Will the churches call Elijah and Apostle John the beast and the false prophet? Likely, I don't know. I don't know yet. Maybe not. Depends. I don't know. It's a thought, but the Lord never told me that, so I could be wrong. So what could happen? Netanyahu, Ben-Gvir and Smoke, Netanyahu says, Trump says, the only way we're going to do this is you got to get the heck out of Gaza. I'll support you, don't worry. You'll get all the bombs and missiles you want. Just pull out, okay? And, then I get the Red Sea to shut down, and I could focus my attention more on Iran and try to deal with Iran in a sensible way without destroying them. Netanyahu will likely think, if I do this for Trump, I'm going to get a vote of no confidence. I'm going to wind up in court, not as the prime minister. I can't delay my cases. I can't say I can't appear. I got a war. And I'm no longer prime minister. I don't have the clout, and I'm going to wind up in prison. I can't give Trump this. I'm not going to die in jail for Trump. This is a very likely outcome. Likely. So Netanyahu tells Trump, I'm not doing this. Now Trump and Netanyahu are no longer friends. If you don't listen to Trump, you're persona non grata, and he gets rid of you. So now Trump may try to work with other people in Israel to get rid of Netanyahu, or he may just let the chips fall where they may, but he will likely turn against Israel. This is what I'm looking for, because this is in prophecy. The scriptures in Jeremiah 50:51 say America will do evil in our sight, speaking of the Israelis. And I believe he'll put troops in Israel, probably to try to make a ceasefire with Hamas and get us out. Something like that. It's very hard to say exactly what will happen. And it may not happen, but it could happen. So it looks like, Trump with the tariffs on Europe, and he delays him and pulls back. That's what he's doing with the war. He's backpedaling. But he spent billions and billions and billions of dollars moving everything into the Middle East. What the heck does he tell the Americans? I don't know. So he's going to say things like he's doing now. I haven't made my mind up. Okay, that's what Trump is doing right now. I haven't made my mind up. Let me check the live stream for questions, prayer requests, and the like for a moment, and we'll continue. The Judaism today is not Judaism. There is some more Judaism. Yeshua changed that. No, rabbinical Talmudic Judaism, I should say. They use the Talmud, not the Bible. That doesn't work. When you say both sides are corrupted, you should ask yourself, genius, who started it, Israel or Hamas? Who went in? And thousands of civilians went with Hamas, cut fetuses out of women when they were alive, raped women and men, gay rape in front of their families and their children, burned people alive, took them hostage, and all. Who started it? Who started it, genius? Nobody jumped in 29. I think a few people did. You start putting codified garbage up, I just blocking you. Yeah, the drone warfare is a new type of warfare. It's crazy, isn't it? These people think Israel did 9/11. There was no 9/11. There was no airplane. You can't talk to them. They hate Jews. They don't realize who Yeshua is, and they'll be doing the backstroke in the lake of fire. That's all. You can't. They won't believe you. You can't work with them. Just it'll happen. Don't worry about it. Okay. So what do I think is going to happen in the immediate future? Well, let's talk about the next week or so. There'll be meetings with Iran next Saturday, not in Oman, in another country. I forgot where. And the negotiations with Hamas will go on and they'll fall apart. Trump may think the demands of Hamas are too outrageous to even force Netanyahu to do, but he may not. Trump's desperate. He's trying to look good now. If he goes into negotiations with Iran and then sells the people on, well, we got a good deal with them and it's okay. We'll sign the deal and see how it goes. And then he gets a peace deal with Hamas. And then the Houthis stop attacking the Red Sea and his ships and merchant marine vessels. And he's pretty well failed in Ukraine, and he's blaming it on the previous administrations, which could be correct. And he's saying it's not my war, so he's walking away from that. So it always goes back to the economy, you know. Trump got impetuous and thought he could win the war. He saw what was happening in Yemen, his shakedown cruise, and he's realizing that they're not effective enough to shut down the Houthis in Yemen. And how the heck are they going to be effective enough to shut down Iran? So now he's backpedaling, trying to save face, keep his image, but he's got a massive problem with BRICS. And they want to destroy the dollar, no doubt about it, and that will wreck his Make America Great stuff. So he has to take care about that. Now, if Russia keeps getting blown up, like, who do you think's telling Ukraine to hit the Russian oil refineries? They hit about 30% of them so far. Yeah, Putin could rebuild them. Yeah, I know that. Who do you think is behind that? I think America's asking him to do it. I think America's patting him on the head and giving him an attaboy for doing it. Because that hurts BRICS. If you get it up to 60, 70% of the Russian oil, then BRICS doesn't have Russian oil to sell. Now you got to take care of Iran. So how can Trump take care of Iran? There's a way to do it. And the way to do it seems to match Bible prophecy. And that would be push the nuclear facilities onto the back burner and go after step one, the radar. That they would take out with their aircraft. Step two, use some new approach on the missile cities, which would undoubtedly cause some damage. Okay? And then take out the power grid of Iran, okay? The military and civilian airports, critical bridges, train routes. The ports and the piers would be demolished that they used to offload oil onto tanker ships to sell and support their economy. And then the aircraft and missiles and submarines would take out the Iranian Navy vessels that are dangerous, like drone aircraft carriers, destroyers, whatever submarines they might have, and things like this. And that leaves Iran basically busted out badly. And they would embargo it. They would stop ships from passing through the Persian Gulf unless the ship could prove that they're not going to Iran or from Iran. So they wouldn't be getting anything. It would be an embargo. And they would put a no-fly zone over Iran. Any airplanes try to land, there'd be a NOTAM. Any planes trying to land in Iran would be shot down. And no planes coming out of Iran. And that's it. And the people would have to leave Iran. No power grid, no economy, no nothing. It would take Trump 2 or 3 weeks or less to shut the country down. That's it. It's over. And then they got to leave. They're not all dead. They leave. And they get killed in the countries they scatter into. No ground invasion. Probably no lost warships, or very few. Probably no lost aircraft, or very few. It'd be an overwhelming success. And would it shut down the missile cities and stuff? Not for a few days. But I mean, you might have to keep going back and blowing, dropping bombs on the missile cities every day. Eventually they'll go. You might have to drop, let's say you go 5,000-pound bombs. You might have to drop 25 on the same, or 50 on the same mountain. But eventually you're going to have the effect of the shaking and the earthquake type effect, and the ceilings will cave in and stuff like that. So that's my take on it, and we need to watch Trump and Netanyahu and Iran and Russia and China very carefully and see what's going to come about. As I told you, my teeth are in good shape right now, and Beulah did manage to jump again. I did secure the door she was squeezing through with twist ties. And I believe the Lord told me to use garbage bags to make camouflage for the other area where she was jumping out. And I did that this morning. I didn't do that in the past, and I think that's how she got out. And I put the garbage bags up early this morning, and I put her out there for, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours, so she didn't get out. So I'm probably solved it. She can't judge where to jump because the garbage bags are spread out and taped up, and she can't see past them. She doesn't know. Dog's not going to jump. If you have a solid wall, they're likely not going to want to jump over it because they don't know what the heck's on the other side of the wall. They could see through it. They could. So all the different things like pallets and things we put up to make obstacles for her, she could see. And this is a high IQ dog that's a problem solver. Okay? But I'll have to check it. If I see her ripping the garbage bags off, I'll just put new ones up and so forth. But keep praying that the Beulah, also known as Houdini, the escape artist, doesn't get out anymore. It's really a problem. So pray for me and my wife for our peace, safety, protection, joy, and healing. Keep praying for my teeth to stay well, that they stop hurting, and the gums, whatever it was, the nerve, I think it was. And pray for better broadcasts, better Bible studies. Could always be better, right? Pray for our finances and that me and my wife would be happy, healthy, and whole, and the birds and the dogs would be happy, healthy, and whole, and pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And I will keep you updated. You might want to subscribe because this is a fast-moving train. There's not a lot of time left. And Trump will very likely go to war because I don't think he's got a way out. He'll go to war. And remember, China and Russia may not only give missiles to Iran, but they know America is going to take the radar out, which is going to cripple the Iranian ability to launch missiles into the other oil refineries and in other countries and the American bases in the region. So China and Russia could take a handful of warships and bring them over to the Persian Gulf and guide the missiles with the radar off the warships. And would Trump then attack and blow up the China and Russia warships? If he did, and he might, that would mean a war of incredible magnitude, wouldn't it? Because China and Russia aren't going to back down because Trump tells them so. They would think Trump would never take their warships out, but what if he does? And that would be his only answer, if he doesn't, Iran will destroy the oil refineries in the Middle East and create an economic chaos of a magnitude probably never seen in the world before. Or he plays the bluff on China and Russia and attacks their warships for guiding the missiles and figures they won't counterattack. That's where I think we're at. And we got to remain vigilant and see what happens. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out.